The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the Arise to Success show. I'm your host on this show. My name is Gehad. Just a bit of a recap of the idea behind this show, just in case anybody has joined us today for the first time. The idea behind the show is that we invite inspiring guests to share their stories and their journeys to success, what they do and how they've achieved it. In my personal work, specializing in personality traits, I analyze individuals' personalities using the model of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I use examples of the companions, or the Sahabas, as well as the Prophet's wives, who hold the same personalities as the individual in order to serve as the role models. Similarly, in this show, I want to also bring current role models who have inspiring stories to share with us and the journeys behind their success. I want this to be an inspiration, inshallah, for all of us. Throughout this show, dear listeners, if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any specific questions to the guests, please feel free to send those in 0779 481822. Our guest today is someone I really look up to, who is very inspirational and does amazing work for the community, mashallah. We have Jennifer, who is also a TV presenter, event and radio host, and a motivational speaker, specializing in entrepreneurship, healthcare, youth empowerment, and social issues. As a Muslim woman, she blends unique life experiences with unrivaled storytelling skills to bring you on a journey of empowerment and self-discovery. Jennifer, honored to have you with us on the show today, and welcome to the Arise to Success show. How are you doing? Can you hear me clearly, Jennifer? Yes? Jennifer, I met you around 2 years ago. I initially was receiving your newsletters, which I can't even remember how I signed up for them, but it shows the power, mashallah, of newsletters and emails that you were talking about a few days ago, actually, in an event that you had. So the newsletters was coming about sisters in business, and I was reading, those newsletters, and your name was popping up. I didn't know who Jennifer was, but one day I decided to drop you an email, and I wasn't sure if I'll receive a response back, because some companies don't respond sometimes. But mashallah, you responded and you invited me to your event. And I remember the event that I came to 2 years ago. As soon as I walked through the doors, this sisterhood is just something I managed to sense straight away. I walked through the doors, a sister welcomed me, she introduced me to other sisters, and the networking started really well. And in fact, I'll be very honest, I'm not sure if I told you that day I wasn't having a very good day, but subhanAllah, that sisterhood that I've experienced, it just made me forget about everything. So mashallah, you've created that amazing platform of sisters where they unite together and support one another. So perhaps if you can tell us, Jennifer, about this sisterhood or Sisters in Business platform that you've created, where I truly felt that sisterhood. What motivated you to start that platform?
First of all, Jazakallah khair for your such kind words. I think when you're doing the work and you're in the business, it's so hard sometimes to remember that, subhanAllah, the things that you have put all your effort and your passion into building, you kind of forget in all the intricacies of business, right? So emailing lists and social media and stuff like that. So alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. And I guess to answer your question, what got me started with Sisters in Business is because, gosh, it's 6 years ago now, subhanAllah, almost 7 years ago, that I decided to create a business. And it completely crashed and failed. I pressed launch and I didn't sell one product. And at that time, me building this business was a get out from my 9 to 5. I no longer wanted to be in 9 to 5. I was pregnant with my 4th child. And I really just wanted to take that effort and time to be at home. I'd spent the last 16 years prior to that within the National Health Service and doing various roles, and I was just tired and I needed to get out. So that business not succeeding was a big issue for me. So I sat and I cried for a couple of days, and my husband said to me, I don't mind that you're crying, but what is it you're doing after? What's the outcome of this crying? And subhanAllah, I said, okay, do you know what? I need to meet other sisters who are also in business, who are facing similar things to me. There must be so many more out there.
Yeah.
And so I put my first event out and it completely failed. And I was like, oh, here we go again, back to square one. Maybe the business world is not cut out for me, subhanAllah. Maybe I'm supposed to be in 9 to 5 and just live a stress-free 9 to 5 life. And then I reworked the poster and I put it out. And within 2 weeks, the event was completely sold out. And we had sisters that came from Birmingham, from Manchester, from Brighton, that came at that particular one. And I thought, is this a thing? Like, networking is not a new concept, and I will never, ever claim it to be. But in the community, it was pretty new. And in the way that we were doing it, it was pretty new. So I was quite shocked that there was such a good response from it. So we went from 1 to 20 to 30 to 60, 70, possibly 80 sold out events now, subhanAllah. And, you know, one thing that I'm super passionate about is sisterhood. Being a Reaver and understanding how sisters really came and took me on at the time when I took my Shahada, and feeling that sisterhood and feeling that security is really what I wanted to bring back into Sisters in Business. And so there isn't a much more befitting name for the business apart from Sisters in Business, subhanAllah. And, you know, just really bringing back the essence of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, and, you know, really making it a community thing. And, you know, every sister that walks through the door, she's salamed like we've known her for years. You know, we hug her like we've known her for decades. And, you know, that is the essence of sisterhood, you know, is to walk through the door and feel like, and not feel as if you do not know anyone.
And that is certainly how I felt as soon as I walked through the doors. And when I was speaking to some of the sisters, are like, oh, you know, I wasn't having a very good day that day. They're like, oh my God, we couldn't even tell. Yeah, that's how much I felt so like, you know, part of the team. It's like, as you said, you know everybody already, although that you haven't met them before. I've never met any of the sisters. I just walked through the doors. I didn't know you. I didn't know anybody there. And subhanAllah, you walk out from those doors, knowing so many people there, mashallah, and building those connections. And the event that you've had a few days ago, another networking event, mashallah, that creativity that you bring into each event is different as well. So it's not the same thing again and again. I came with the expectation that I'm going to see exactly the same thing as the first event, but it was completely different. I mean, the foundation is always there, that sisterhood. And mashallah, that creativity is amazing as well. So definitely, mashallah, amazing work that you're doing there. I was interested as well, you mentioned 2 failures. Tell us more about those. What happened?
Oh, gosh. So the 2 failures. So it's funny because when I look back now, the language that I would use now, what I used back then is not what I would use now. In fact, I call it failures because that's what the general public or normal people would see it as. But for me, there were learning curves, there were journeys. And my journey into each thing that didn't work out was to make me stronger for the better thing that was coming. Yeah. And so the first part of the failure or the journey was, you know, creating a business that really came from a place of pain. I was hurting. I was in a lot of pain. And although I was pregnant, 6 months pregnant with my 4th child, I previously had a miscarriage, and it was quite a traumatic miscarriage. And I just remember laying in the hospital bed and really thinking to myself that, subhanAllah, here I am, a woman of color who wears hijab, who went through this unexpected miscarriage. I'm now laying in a bed. I can't do my hair. I can't wash my face. All the things that meant something to me, I couldn't do. And so I decided to create a box for those moments, for those women who these things happen to unexpectedly, that you go through so much pain that you can't even think about anything else apart from what you are going through. I wanted to take that pain away by just providing a solution that was simple as providing you with a face wash, a comb, a brush, just so that even on that particular moment when you didn't want to show up for anyone apart from the pain that you're in, you still felt like you looked your best. And that's exactly what I wanted to create. But you see, at that time, I had no business knowledge whatsoever. There was nothing. Everything I done is what I learned on YouTube, is all the blog posts I read. And to add an extra layer of that, there was no one that looked like me that was delivering that message. And so I thought, okay, well, I haven't succeeded in that, and that's absolutely fine. We take it as a loss. Thousands of pounds went with it. My house was looking like a storage room. But I said, each of these things that I bought, that I felt like a woman needed her most in that moment of need, I'm going to gift it to women. And so When the networking of the very first one came about, it was exactly those gifts that I gifted to every single woman. And with each gift that I gifted, there was a part of me that was also crying because I knew what those products were meant to do for the women that were supposed to have it, right? So then I put that, that failed, and I thought, okay, goodness, I'm left with a storage room, products everywhere. My mind is completely frazzled. I don't know what's going on. And then I've done a Google search. And in that Google search, the statistic that jumped out to me was 65% of women who start a business fail within the first 3 years. But if we're talking about a woman of faith, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, who has religious limitations, who can't access finance in the way that the normal woman would access finance, a woman who could walk into a traditional entrepreneurial hub and access particular resources and things that we can't do it, which then means that 95% of us fail our businesses within the first 3 years.
Wow.
Now that scared me because at that moment I was sitting within those 95%. I wasn't going to go back to my 9 to 5. So that drive of hearing those statistics then pushed me into a moment of, I can change this and I'm fully equipped to change it. But we're going to take it one step at a time. I'm still going through trauma of failing that, that one. We're going to take it one day at a time. And subhanAllah, with one day at a time that I had done so many courses on business. I even considered going to do a business degree. I really wanted to be in prime position to deliver the message. So that was the first failure that went by. And the second one was the fact that I put out my very first event and it didn't go well. And again, when I look back, there's something that Allah tested me with patience and control. I'm a person who loves to have control. I've come from being homeless. I've come from being a young mum. And so there are certain things that I couldn't control in terms of where I lived and how much money I earned. But what I could control is the situations that I put myself into and the people that I interact with. So I lost control because I put this thing out and no one booked a ticket. And then I had to have even more patience to be able to look at it and think to myself, okay, so what is it that I am getting wrong still? And when I look back, the one thing that I was getting wrong is the fact that I did not base the foundation of my business upon the son of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Wow.
And those were the two failures that had got me to the door of what some would call success right now.
Wow, that is amazing and it's so powerful, subhanAllah. And the fact that those failures, and I love, first of all, how you call them journeys, and that's what this show is all about, to show those journeys, because we don't always see this. We don't see what's happening behind scenes. We don't see the obstacles. We don't see the struggles. We see just the success.
Yeah.
And those failures, as you said, they are learning lessons. They are part of the journey to your success. And one of the or kind of like, some people look at fail as FAIL, first attempt in learning, rather than actually failing. So I love how you called them journeys. And the fact that you've actually, with each failure or each of those journeys, you didn't just continue what you were doing. You were looking to see what was going wrong. You were evaluating in order to make sure that the next one would be a success. And that's what success is about, is to look back, to see what didn't work and to see how you can make it better. And I love how also you kind of, you say it came from pain, but you didn't want anyone else to go through that pain, and therefore that was initially you motivated. And mashallah, now you've mashallah inspired so many sisters, and as I mentioned, all the great things about the sisterhood that you've created, mashallah, and the support that you are doing for the Muslim sisters out there. I'm just going to quickly remind our dear listeners, just in case anybody joined us lately. We have Jennifer on the show today, who's a TV presenter, event and radio host, and a motivational speaker specializing in entrepreneurship, healthcare, youth empowerment, and social issues. As a Muslim woman, she blends unique life experiences with unrivaled storytelling skills to bring you on a journey of empowerment and self-discovery. And any of our dear listeners, if you would like to send any questions to Jennifer, or if you have any comments, please feel free to send those on 07779 481822. And I'm sure anybody who's listening here, I'm sure some of the listeners will be relating to a lot of the things that you've mentioned, Jennifer, because there is nobody who doesn't go through struggles. Even the prophets have gone through struggles as well. So any of our dear listeners who would like to comment or have any questions, please feel free to send those on the number that I've just mentioned. So Jennifer, besides, the struggles, we go through, those struggles, but there is also positive things that keep us going as well. Absolutely. So, mashallah, from one event to another, and you said for about 6-7 years now. Tell us more about the positive things that keep you going and, keep you inspired to continue this amazing work.
So first of all, the two things that keep me going is my two daughters. I want them to grow up in a world where they can step into generational wealth and be comfortable with stepping into that. I also want a world for them where if they want to be an entrepreneur, they do not have to look and see who else is a Muslim around the table. There's plenty around. The other things that also motivate me is I know the transformational journey I have gone through myself with having my business. And one thing that I like to say is that entrepreneurship is something that I love so much because I grow with the business. In my mindset, in my tolerance, in my communication. I've really grown a lot, subhanAllah. And, a lot of people that knew me back then will also testify to you that Jennifer that is speaking now, that has got the business, was not Jennifer, the same Jennifer, maybe even 10 years ago, subhanAllah. It's not the same. And this is, is these things that keep me going.
Yeah.
The other thing that also keeps me going, Gehad, is when you have testimonials from women who come to you and tell you that because of their involvement in Sisters in Business, they're able to go away and book their very first family holiday that they have never been able to do before. When you have women that tell you that we walked into the room, we didn't know anyone, but we immediately burst into tears because I felt like I walked into my home.
Yeah.
Those kind of things keep me going because just like anyone, as positive as I can probably be, I also have my dark days and my dark moments. And those moments are really the tests that come from shaitan, that also the waswas and, all those things that compound and combine itself into really making you think that, are you really doing this for the ummah? What is the ummah doing back for you? Why are you putting in so much effort? Is it worth it? And subhanAllah, when I look at the last 6 to 7 years and I look at those moments of waswas from shaitan, is it worth it? Absolutely. Because I know that whether a sister has stuck around for a year, 6 months, 2 weeks, a day, I know somewhere that she has felt the impact of the community of Sisters in Business to keep her going wherever she gets to next, subhanAllah. So, all of those things combined keep me going. But also, and I think the last thing that I will say is also just understanding that this is my legacy, that Allah has given me this to leave behind. That the sustainability of Sisters in Business, the legacy of Sisters in Business far exceeds me as the CEO or the founder, far exceeds me. I want it to be left in a way that, yes, they understand that I was the founder, but it still goes because of all the sisters that have been a part of the journey as well.
Yeah.
So I can speak for ages about what keeps me going. But those are some of the things that does it for me.
And that's powerful, mashallah. And that's, inshallah, for the legacy that you're leaving behind, or all the amazing work, inshallah, you continue getting the rewards for it. And also for the sisters to benefit from the work that you do, inshallah, you get that reward as well. So may Allah reward you abundantly for all that amazing work. Now, the other question I was thinking about, why sisters? I know you've mentioned there briefly about, being in the 95% of women who fail, and, specifically Muslims in the first 3 years. Why not all Muslims? Why specifically Muslim females? Is there something specific when it comes to Muslims in terms of the females not doing, something for their own business, like, our role model Khadija radiallahu anha, she was an entrepreneur, right? But I do notice that in society where, we do rely a lot on the males for finances. So I was wondering, was that the reason why this, it was specifically for Muslim sisters, or are there any other reasons as well?
So that is definitely one of the reasons. When we look at the structure of Muslims in the UK, structurally, women are poor. We're a lot more poorer than our men. There's no reason for that. We are just as skilled as them. We are just as educated, if not even more educated than them, right? When you've come from migrant families, especially when you've come from migrant families, the first thing that your family wants you to do is to go and get that education. So that means as a community of women, we do not lack in our educational resources or our educational skills or knowledge. Same thing with our skills, our qualities. Allah has made us as nurturers. So, from the feature of who we are as women, we understand what it takes to build and to create that village and to hold it together. We understand the essence of that because it's innate within us. But what women don't understand is that their visibility is super important. Yeah. And when I first started Sisters in Business and I looked around, there wasn't many visible Muslim women that I could look at and be like, okay, well, she's thriving and she's thriving, because there wasn't many of them. And so for me, why do I choose women only? First of all, why not? No one should have to justify why we focus on a particular demographic. Secondly, because our women deserve to have the best, especially when it's halal, especially when she's raising her family, especially when she's able to also contribute into her household, which is then seen as sadaqah. It's not a must, but it's sadaqah. So all of those things combined is why I only work with Muslim women. Now, we've had so many questions. Can non-Muslim women come into our networking events? And can they? Absolutely. But they also understand that you are now sitting at our table, which means that we are unapologetic, which means I say all the alhamdulillahs, the masha'allahs, the insha'allahs, and not having to even worry or flinch that you will then see me as extreme or anything else that you want to see me as. But also, I know what sisterhood gave me. Yeah. I know what the women in the deen gave me. They gave me so much more than just deen. They gave me family. I'm estranged by 2 parents and not by death. I'm estranged by family, not by death, but by the fact that they do not want to know me. And so when you have women that rally together and pull you up and elevate you and make sure that the clothes you wear are clean and make sure that the way that you conduct yourself is good, why would I not want to pour back into that same community?
Yeah. That's amazing and very powerful, mashallah. So jazakallah khair for that explanation. And, women in Islam are half of the society, right? And therefore, as you said, we're not shown very visibly out there. So mashallah, you're doing amazing work to bring that out and for us to be part of that society and to be able to raise our children, inshallah, with the right foundations. And in terms of wealth, a lot of people, and I had Afi on the show as well a few weeks ago and talking about finances, and that Islamically, we, a lot of the companions, and they were very wealthy, and there was nothing wrong with that. In fact, this is better for us to be wealthy because then we can give so much back to the community. And I give an example of giving charity. One of the forms of giving charity is in the form of finances. And if we don't have the finances, we won't be able to give in charity as well.
Absolutely.
So Islamically, Khadija radiallahu anha, our role model, she was an entrepreneur. And mashallah, she's the one, as you said in the event a few days ago, she gave her wealth to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So us as Muslim women, we need to have that as our role model, as our example as well. Very shortly, we're going to be going for a break, Jennifer, but perhaps before we break as well, we can talk a little bit about, the other work that you do. Sisters in Business is just part of the work that you do, mashallah. So you said that you specialize in entrepreneurship, healthcare, youth empowerment, and social issues. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? And if we don't have the time to finish it, inshallah, we'll continue after the break.
Absolutely. So part of my passion and part of my work is really sitting in how as Muslim women, we are treated within the healthcare system. And a lot of my career is rooted in maternity and rooted in developing communities within the healthcare system for them to understand how we thrive and how we are to be approached and engaged with. And so a lot of my work sits with beautiful existence like 5 times more, where Black and brown women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die within childbirth and pregnancy, and even postpartum after that, subhanAllah. So a lot of my work is deeply rooted in that, inshallah. But there's so much more that we can definitely dive into a little later, inshallah.
Brilliant, inshallah. We will, inshallah, continue that after the break. So, dear listeners, this is Inspire FM on 105.1. We'll be going for a short break, inshallah, and we'll continue talking about the amazing work Jennifer is doing. So, see you very shortly.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to the Arise to Success show. We have Jennifer, who's a guest with us today, who is a TV presenter, event and radio host, and a motivational speaker specializing in entrepreneurship, healthcare, youth empowerment, and social issues. As a Muslim woman, she blends unique life experiences with unrivaled storytelling skills to bring you on a journey of empowerment and self-discovery. If you have any questions, dear listeners, or comments, please feel free to send them on 07779 481822. So, Jennifer, before the break, we discussed quite a lot of things, mashallah, in terms of, Sisters in Business, which is part of the work that you do. What motivated you to start that, the pain that you've gone through in order to, and how you use that in order to relieve that pain from others going through it. We talked about the positive things that keep you going as well in the amazing work that you do. Just before the break, we started talking about the other things that you do in terms of the healthcare, youth empowerment, and social issues. So perhaps if we continue talking about that, inshallah, before we talk about the other work that you do as well.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning before, that, being involved in campaigns such as 5 times more, which I explained previously, that, Black and brown women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die within their pregnancy, childbirth, and after, up to a year after, subhanAllah. And, that actually, for Muslim women, it jumps up to almost 11 times more. So this is why I do these types of work, because, again, it affects my community. It affects women like me. It's inshallah that we sort it out, but if we don't, it affects our children, for instance. And so doing work like that is super important to me. Also sitting on boards and really talking to the National Health Service and really advising them on how they can engage with communities such as ours. One of my biggest pivotal pieces of work was sitting on boards and that we were engaging with the Syrian community, for instance. How can we engage Syrian women into the conversation of making sure that their maternity journey has better outcomes? Because as we know, the trauma, psychological trauma, physical trauma, it all has an effect on how we then go on to conceive our children, subhanAllah. So, really having these big conversations and being so privileged to sit at the table, to be able to say that I'm a change maker. And I'm super proud of being a change maker, because if it wasn't for our voices, or if it wasn't for women like me sitting at tables like these, we wouldn't see better outcomes for our women. And that's all we want. We want to have better outcomes for our women, which then seeps into the community, which then means that we have better outcomes for our villages, subhanAllah.
Yeah, and for the whole ummah, mashallah. That's amazing work, mashallah. And may Allah reward you for that work. Besides that, you're a TV presenter, radio host, mashallah. So tell us more about this work as well. What do you aim to achieve from that? And how did, what's the motivation that made you start that as well?
Gosh, so let me tell you, the motivation for TV presenting started, this is going to show my age, right? All the way back in secondary school, subhanAllah. And I really had this thing of just being so inspired by Oprah. I had such a real big pull towards Oprah, her interview style, her passion, her empathy, her sympathy in these conversations. And so when I came to Islam, I really, really dampened on it, and I really suppressed these desires of wanting to be out in front of the camera for all sorts of reasons, subhanAllah. And then it came to a couple of years ago when Sisters in Business started kicking off and people really started to understand the work that we were doing. And then I think people started to catch on to the fact that her speaking skills are pretty good. Alhamdulillah, I've been able to craft my speaking skills in a particular way. And so I was asked to be a TV presenter, at which I declined, because at that time, I'm still living in the mindset that I can't be this person I've always aspired to be. But do I love TV presenting? Absolutely. I feel like there isn't enough visibility, especially as a Black Muslim woman, in the world of TV. And alhamdulillah, at the moment, I'm with quite, a prominent TV channel, but I want to break out of that. I want to break out of the community. I want to be in mainstream, subhanAllah. Why do I want to be in mainstream? Because there isn't enough of us being there. And the more people get comfortable with seeing women like us, hijab, Muslim, still normal, by the way, we still talk the same, by the way, the more normal it will be in society for us to be involved in things without us having to be a project or a KPI. So that's the desire for it, inshallah. So hopefully one day somewhere, if Allah wills it for me, and if it's something that is good for me, that, I want to be mainstream, doing something, lending my voice to conversations that are much needed, but also just understanding that with all the work that I do and all the hard work that I put into things, that subhanAllah, it will just be a momentous time for my family, especially just to see mum on, they already see her on a big TV screen, but on a bigger TV screen, inshallah.
Inshallah, and I'm sure you are a motivation to your daughters, your children, and mashallah, other Muslims out there as well, both males and females, inshallah. And that's another thing that we do with this show, is to make that an inspiration for Muslims to follow their passions, no matter how much, you fail or, your first attempt at learning. It's your journey, right? It's not the end. It is the start. And the end, inshallah, will be beautiful, inshallah, based on the journeys. And it's those memories that you will look back and you'll be grateful for, because you learn a lot from those, inshallah.
Absolutely.
So with the TV presenter, you were hesitant, you did reject it at the start, but now you love it. So what happened in that transition?
I got bit by the bug. As they say, you do it once and you do it once and that's it. Like, you want to do it again. And it's a bit like being on stage and speaking to audiences and doing your speaking. The first time I was like, I don't know if this is me. And then I went on it and I was like, this is a bit of me. This is what I like, mashallah, alhamdulillah. So I got bit by the bug and I haven't looked back since, subhanallah, and as long as this is what Allah knows is good for me, then, I will continue to be on that path.
Inshallah. And what do you, for the TV shows that you do, what do you address? I would love for the listeners to, tune in and listen to your shows and stuff like that. Because, mashallah, the event that I've attended, that's another network event that I've attended a few days ago. And as soon as he started speaking, it's like, I just want to fully listen to you. And there was an event that is happening on the 26th as well, which is an afternoon tea on the bus, right? And
Yes.
you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, because I get so motivated by you. I want others, to have the same, to benefit from the same as well. So tell us what you aim to address with the TV shows that you do, so that others, and how others can tune in as well.
So subhanAllah, once again, we address issues that are going on worldwide with us as sisters, as women. We discuss things like, let me tell you, things like huge things, like, the first hijabi sportswoman, or, the first hijabi barrister, for instance. And then we also address lighthearted things, like someone that found piles of gold in their attic. And I started rumbling from my mother-in-law's attic thinking, you must have something in there that's going to bring us this wealth, subhanallah.
Just okay. I'm sure a lot of us are going to go to the attic after this if we have it.
And there was someone that found old coins from thousands and decades ago, years and years ago, underneath their floorboards. I started looking in my apartment. Do we have floorboards here? Because I need to, it always happens to others and not me, subhanallah. So we have discussions like that. And just as, subhanAllah, just as what Inspire FM is doing, we also speak to amazing women that are doing something in society, that are doing something in their community, or just doing something for themselves, inshallah. It's a varied show. It's a breakfast show, which means, you get a daily dose of morning inspiration from us, subhanAllah. But it's also a show that, that really does focus on women. And we really want to uplift women and continue to uplift them as well, inshallah. So, what better way to start your day, dropping the kids off to school and then coming home whilst eating your breakfast, catching us at breakfast, subhanallah.
Amazing. So what time is that, and where can the listeners find you then?
So that is 10 to 12, and that is on Islam Channel. Alhamdulillah. One day I shall be telling you it's my own channel one day, but until then, it's Islam Channel, alhamdulillah.
Inshallah. That's amazing. Is that daily at 10 o'clock?
Daily at 10 o'clock. You won't catch me daily, but it's definitely daily at 10 o'clock, inshallah.
That's brilliant, mashallah. I'm just going to quickly remind our dear listeners, just in case anybody joined just now, we have Jennifer on the show with us today, who's a TV presenter, event and radio host, and a motivational speaker specializing in entrepreneurship, healthcare, youth empowerment, and social issues. As a Muslim woman, she blends unique life experiences with unrivaled storytelling skills to bring you on a journey of empowerment and self-discovery. If any of our dear listeners would like to send a question or comments or have anything to say about what we're discussing today, please feel free to send those in 079 481822. So talking about, the work that you're doing, we're just talking about the TV show that you take part in. I remembered seeing in one of your posts, and Sister Khalila as well, about TEDx for Muslim women. Perhaps if you can tell us.
Yes. I mean, this is when we talk about the qadr of Allah and the mercies that Allah lends to me on a daily basis. This TEDx journey of mine started 6 years ago when I started Sisters in Business. I had this idea of TEDx, and I was like, we need to bring TEDx to the sisters. I then met Sister Khalila through work and everything that we do, and being, co-host on Islam Channel. And one day we're having a conversation and we both let it slip that we want to be TEDx hosts. And we said, what better way than to collaborate and have a platform once again that really shines a light on the sisters, but in a different way. We want sisters to step on stages and own the stage and really be creative and scientific with the things that they're speaking about. So then TEDx Bethnal Green is what it's called, was then born, subhanAllah. And, it's a labor of love. This particular project is a project of love because we looked through the applications recently and our hearts were bursting with so much joy and love because sisters are ready for this.
Yeah. Good.
Women are ready. And by the way, it's not just for the women, it's also for our Muslim brothers as well. Like, subhanAllah, they're ready. They're ready to be on these stages. And what the honor that we can give these people who will grace the stages to have that TEDx next to their name on their CVs, on their websites. It's such an honor to be able to be part of that journey, subhanAllah.
That's amazing, mashallah, inshallah. As you said, other people are ready. You don't have to get them to be ready, mashallah. They are ready. Maybe they just were waiting for that opportunity.
It was waiting for the moment, subhanAllah.
Yes, alhamdulillah, you've created that opportunity. So inshallah, that benefits a lot of Muslims, inshallah, out there as well. I'm wondering, mashallah, you're involved in so many different things. You're a mum as well. How do you juggle all of this?
Oh gosh, the question I get on a daily basis. I always talk about my 2 girls, but actually I'm a mum of 4. So I've got 2 boys and 2 girls, mashallah. And honestly, I wake up in the morning and I ask myself the same question. How am I doing this on a daily basis?
Yeah.
But honestly, when you do something that you love and you do something that means so much to you, it doesn't even feel like you're doing anything.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. And like I said to you, Allah gave me this gift. I didn't go searching for it. Allah gave it to me. And what an absolute honor am I to be put in a position that once upon a time I was not really known in the community to now being one of, I'm going to say this, subhanAllah, and it's not with any type of arrogance attached. It's taken me such a long time to be able to realize that, to now being one of the women in the community who is highly sought after when it comes to business advice, when it comes to business, when it comes to speaking, subhanAllah. And, when you look back and you really look at the things that you've achieved and the things that I'm doing now, I can't tell you how I'm doing it. But I know that each morning that I wake up and pray Fajr is always a moment of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'll be able to do it at all.
Sure, that's amazing. And I'm not sure if I heard a lecture or a sheikh talk about it or read it somewhere about the how. Is that sometimes a lot of times actually what stops us is the how. We can't figure out the how, and that tends to kind of stop us from taking steps forward. Yeah. And in that lecture or talk, I can't remember what it was, I remember hearing, don't try to figure out the how. The how is for Allah. Leave it to Allah. Absolutely. You just have the intention and go forward. And Absolutely. It will just eventually happen. And that relates to what you just said as well. And that what gets us stuck sometimes because, the how, but that's where our reliance on Allah is. The how is on Allah. Leave it to Allah. Yeah. Have trust in Allah. Try your camel, of course, but have trust in Allah as well. And try, instead of figuring out the how, go for it. And Allah will ease it for you, inshallah. In terms of any other upcoming events, I've mentioned briefly the event that's happening the 26th. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about it because I just found out about it recently as well. And what's going on in that? Are you doing a talk or are you taking part in that? Or how are you taking part?
Yeah, so that is going to be an afternoon tea. MashaAllah. Yeah. And it's really, again, just a time of sisters coming together and really spending time with each other, subhanAllah. And I will be there lending my voice in sisterhood and, how we can be creative with sisterhood and how we can foster sisterhood in a means of collaboration rather than competition, subhanAllah. So yeah, whilst I'll be sipping my tea like a queen, as everybody else will be, it will be such a beautiful bus ride. I'm hearing from one part of town to the other, and just really getting to meet people. But shall I tell you what I really love about what I do is meeting new sisters.
Yeah.
It's meeting new sisters. I mean, just like you, Gehad, you must meet sisters when you do this, and the stories that I hear. The trust that people put in me to tell me their deepest dreams of business, subhanAllah, I just love it. And I'm always, if I can get a chance to meet new people, I really will. And the reason why that is because once upon a time, I really, really hated meeting new people because of friendships that had gone bad. And those were the most miserable years of my life because that's not who I am. I naturally am a person that likes to get to know people. And so when I see sisters who don't want to get up and go out and do anything, I think back to my moments of that and thinking to myself, that was a miserable time. Allah made us all different so that we can all get to know each other, subhanAllah. So why should I or why should anyone limit themselves to only to those who they know? And even if it's just going to be for that moment on the bus that I meet people and it never goes anywhere, I'm fulfilled in that.
Yeah.
And inshallah, the other sister is too, inshallah.
I mean, and what you mentioned there is that Allah created us differently so that we get to know one another. And that's an ayah in the Quran. So it's something that is Islamic. Sometimes we, as you said, when we go through pain or when we're hurting, we just kind of withdraw. And it's okay if you feel like you really need your time to withdraw for a bit, but don't let that be the end. So perhaps tell us a bit more about that, because that happens a lot to Jennifer, where we hurt, we don't want to deal with people anymore.
Yeah.
What happened in terms of that transition of you withdrawing yourself from people, but then deciding, actually, you know what, that's not me. I want to go back to being who I am. Tell us more about how did you get yourself back to who you are?
Oh, gosh. First of all, it wasn't a linear journey. It was a journey of constantly reminding myself that in this moment, it's not about me. I went from losing friends that were there from day one, subhanAllah, that taught me how to wear my first hijab, that, taught me how to wear my first abaya, that we really had our babies together, and that friendship ended really, really nasty, subhanAllah. And it was one that left me feeling really, really hurt. And, something that human nature, that when you are left hurt and the other person doesn't recognize the hurt, it hurts even more. SubhanAllah. So there was all of that going on. But the moment that I decided that I no longer wanted to do that is also tied in the moment that I started Sisters in Business.
Oh, wow. SubhanAllah.
And it was a moment that I promised myself that I will constantly be open for everyone and anyone. Because going from losing friends in the way that I did to then seeing those friends shine past you, doing better than you, it really put me in a frame of mind of it's me and them. And it should never feel like that. Sisterhood is not about me or you, us and them. It's about all of us and how we succeed together or how we journey together. And when I started Sisters in Business was the moment from the first salam that I gave the sister that I didn't know before, was also the moment that I decided that I was going to open up a lot more. And let me tell you, the friendships, the best friendships that I have at the moment have been made in the digital world, then leaked into the real life world, right? And for me, there is no words. There's, the messages that I get on people just sending me messages. Assalamu alaikum, Jennifer, how are you? I cry because I remember in those past relationships, there was never a moment of how are you? There was never moments of what can I do for you? There were never moments of let's just hold each other because that's what we need to do right now. It was always about take. And I became depleted at the take. And subhanAllah, the relationships and friendships that I have now is a give and take. I give so freely because they also take from me so freely. And I take for them so lovingly because they give so lovingly. And, if there is anyone in that space of they don't know whether they should go and have new relationships, I promise you, there is nothing but goodness that can come out of it if that is what your intention is. Yeah. So we shouldn't be afraid of making new friendships or having new relationships. SubhanAllah, it's just, again, the pandemic taught me that once again, that, us as Muslim women, as Muslim people, we thrive in community. Yeah. We don't do things alone. So why should I befriend myself and only me and then be miserable and not be happy when I can have X amount of friends and be the happiest Muslim woman alive? And I like to call it Muslim woman joy. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, that's amazing. And I'm just going to remind the listeners that we have Jennifer with us today in the show, who's a TV presenter, event and radio host, and a motivational speaker specializing in entrepreneurship, healthcare, youth empowerment, and social issues. As a Muslim woman, she blends unique life experiences with unrivaled storytelling skills to bring you on a journey of empowerment and self-discovery. If anybody has a question or any comments, please feel free to send those in 0779 481822. And just now, as we were talking about friendship, and I'm sure, I wanted to touch upon this because I'm sure a lot of the sisters out there are experiencing the same. So, dear listeners, if you have any comments that you want to add to that area specifically, any questions in it, please do feel free to send those. And when you were talking about Jennifer earlier in the show, that that sisterhood where you felt the love and the support from the sisters that helped you to start or motivated you to start Sisters in Business. On the flip side, you talked about the difficulties as well, right? So that never actually made you give up. Combining both of them together, the pain and the positives, both combined together, you've created that Sisters in Business, and you've used those experiences that you've had to make it better for other sisters. So I just wanted to make sure that I do highlight the difficulties that you've experienced as well, because sometimes we just feel I'm the only one who's facing difficulties. Yeah. But you've had both the positives and negatives of that friendship that helped you to create.
Absolutely. And can I just say that it's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
You never get to a perfect moment with it.
Yeah.
And if it was supposed to be perfect, then it would be everlasting. I've got my best friend. We've never argued in the 20 years that we've been friends together. Does it mean that she doesn't get on my nerves? Absolutely not. It's not a perfect relationship. Of course she gets on my nerves. I get on her nerves.
Yeah.
But the point is that we're willing to put so much into each other. And so, I know that, especially when we get older, I'm in my 30s and I've passed a certain threshold of being in my 30s. And, one thing that when I speak to other women is that they say to me that I'm tired of making new relationships, or it's tiresome to invest X amount of years into somebody else now when you've lost someone. And I always say to them, it only feels tiresome because we make it transactional. It never feels tiresome when it's a relational relationship, where you truly get to know each other. Khalila won't mind me saying this, but the day that me and Khalila's relationship was cemented was the day that we traveled together to go and speak at a speaking engagement together. And I remember her turning around to me and saying to me on the train when we were coming back, she said to me, I'm going to try and say this without being emotional, but she said to me, she said, I love that I know you now. And in the beginning, I was like, what do you mean? It's like, we've just traveled together. And the Prophet said that you only get to know someone when you travel with that person.
Yeah.
So subhanAllah, again, it's about how do we see our relationships and how can we shape our relationships with the understanding that it all goes back to the foundation of Islam.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what makes, lasting relationships as well. And it's not about just take, it's about give and take. And you mentioned collaboration several times before, and I wanted to highlight that. And we kind of talked about other things as well. And in a lot of cases when we collaborate, we think by me giving to somebody, I'm losing out. But it's not like that, because it's a win-win, right? Yeah. And that's sometimes a lot of times it actually holds us back from supporting one another, because it doesn't mean when you support or give, it means that something will be taken away from you.
Yeah.
So it's Islamically, collaboration is something that is amazing, and it's something that we support one another with. I thought we actually have a lot of time, and I realized I've only got less than a minute left. So, I would have loved to spend longer time having that conversation, but it has been great, Jennifer. Jazakallah khair for all that you've shared, all the positives and challenges that you've gone through that made who you are today. Listeners, Jazakumullah khair for tuning in as well. It has been a pleasure to have you on the show, Jennifer, and I hope everybody has benefited from this as much as I have as well. And please do stay tuned to future shows, dear listeners. This show takes place every Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. Our next guest is a teen coach and hypnotherapist who coaches teens to overcome anxiety and step into fearless confidence. So please do join us next week, as this is an area I'm sure a lot of you are interested in. Jazakallah khair, Jennifer, again. Lovely having you. Jazakallah khair, dear listeners. And assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.